Hi there. So welcome on board. I'm sharing the antitrust policy notice as usual at the beginning of our meetings. The full antitrust policy is on our website, and if you have any questions and you're a Linux Foundation member, you can contact our counsel, Andy Updegrove, with those. Now, today's meeting is probably going to be relatively focused. Ooh, I'm so dark. I'm going to turn on more lights. There we go. So today's meeting is to wrap up the training course, and most of the work is done. There's a few more comments after coming in, and that's fantastic. Though the main thing that I think we need to do right now is simply to consider what questions would be good for the final exam. I'm sharing my screen to show where we are, and I'm going to share the direct link as well. For context, our training course has 5 chapters, and at the end of every chapter, there's a knowledge check. And that currently has 3 questions, each one with 1 false and 1 true answer. So far, so simple. We are not allowed to replicate those questions in the final exam. So we need to think of what would be suitable for the final exam. Something that wouldn't make things too hard, something that wouldn't be too long, and something that would still be rewarding enough that people feel like the badge they get from Linux Foundation training is worth something to them and worth something to their company. I wanted to suggest that we do a couple of things. Perhaps we aim for 8 questions, with the idea that that's just about long enough to feel comprehensive without getting too tiring. And after all, we want people to be able to do the whole course in about 1 to 2 hours. Let's say 2 hours. I was thinking as well that perhaps we should make sure the questions aren't tricky. I mean, this is very much an introduction to open source license compliance management. And we don't want people to feel like they are being pushed on the nuances of the knowledge they've just gained. We want to make sure they've got the broad sweep of the knowledge and that they're empowered to learn further. And for that reason, I wanted to basically throw open the door on what type of questions we have here. I wanted to start with one example that I think could work. And, please feel free to say that that's a terrible idea. I was thinking that the opening question could simply confirm once more that they understand intellectual property. And it's a very basic question, but they got that in chapter 1, and they've gone through another 4 chapters. So let's see if that's stuck. And then the other questions could be along the same lines, picking out general ideas just to test they have the knowledge. And because it's an LF training platform, they can go back, they can redo chapters, and come back to the final exam. So I would say...
Shane, yeah. Just a little question. You mentioned that the whole course would be like 1 to 2 hours?
Yes.
It's not this first part, but the whole thing?
Oh, no, just this first part.
Oh, okay, the first part, yeah.
The first 5 chapters. So, I was thinking that we regard this 5-chapter course as a wholly self-contained course. And later on, when we're ready, we release the second course. But for context, the first course is Introduction to Open Source License Compliance Management. The second one will be Implementing. I'm going to just change the title here. Implementing Open Source License Compliance Management. So it's 2 quite different courses. So this introduction, I was thinking, yeah, why don't we keep it super light on the test and simply zoom back across the course and pick up some questions. And I just wanted to get your suggestion of what questions would be good with a goal of having approximately 8 in this exam. So I thought, what is intellectual property? That's a good start. I thought another one could be, what are software licenses? Again, very, very basic stuff. But we covered that way back here. Here we go. Introduction to open source licenses. We covered licenses in chapter 1. What is a license and how do they work? So chapter 1, what is intellectual property? Maybe that's good. Maybe we should just go straight to what is a software license? And then what is an open source software license? We don't really have that much on intellectual property, so maybe we should just jump straight to that. What do you think? All right, no objections, here we go. Okay. Or perhaps the open source one should be a little bit more broad. When we talked about open source, we mentioned that the various freedoms it provides you. So maybe that could be our answer. You know, an open source license allows you to share, use, study, share, and improve the software. So maybe our question could be as simple as, you know, what do open source licenses allow? And then just have the simple answer and then a trick. So each one would have, you know, two possible answers, one of which is real and one of which is not.
Is it enough to have just, you know, one correct and one, you know?
We can do more. I mean, we have to see what LF training says. They might say that's a stupid idea.
Yeah, because it's, you know, 50-50 chance anyway. Well, if you have like plenty, then 50-50, you know, might be enough. But I don't know, it could be more interesting to have 4, and which is 1 is correct and 3 wrong or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's perfectly
I don't know.
valid. Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. I would just need help creating the false questions if possible to make them tricky, but not too tricky.
Yeah.
So software licenses, what do open source software licenses allow? It seems that the next natural question relates to, you know, what is open source license compliance? And perhaps we could, we have a chapter on open source compliance. Perhaps we could, here's a good one. What are the compliance goals? And it's know what you're using, how you're using it, and satisfy obligations. I don't know, do you think that would be too tricky?
Well, it shouldn't be too tricky, and
All right.
and then actually, well, you know, if because you know, you could put like list of many things, and then
Yes.
you can just pick 3 out of that list.
That's a great idea. So
And that could, you know,
that could be really good. So that would move from true or false into multiple choice.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I don't know if that's possible with a, you know, platform, but I've seen something like that in some other, you know, courses I've done. And it can be actually tricky because then you don't know, like, if you get 2 correct but 1 is wrong, that's okay, like which one is wrong?
Yeah.
And then you need to, you know, kind of go back and, you know, check things, and you know, it's kind of learning experience as well.
Good point. Yeah, no, good, really good. All right, let's see if I can put that together. So know what you're using, know how you're using it, and the rest is just false questions. All right, that's 3 down. That will probably be the most difficult thing for people, so we should probably only put in like 2 tricks into it.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
Well, they can always go back and, you know, check it out if, you know, they don't get it right the first time.
That's a really good point. going back through the document, there's a lot of material in the introduction to open source compliance. So I think we should have something around implementing compliance practices as a question. To build on what we just had a minute ago, I guess, compliance goals and then implementation. Actually, the implementation thing is very dense. It's hard to pull out a simple question from it. Huh. I suppose what we could pick on here is a very common failure point, tracking open source software within the development process.
Or
Oh,
how
Martin.
about when your software ships, is your compliance done and finished?
That's a good point. Have you completed your compliance process before shipping software? Actually, that's a really good point. Why not?
And since I got in here, yeah, apologies, I don't have much time today. I have internal meetings coming up, so
I just want
it's
to
looking good. So
I want to give huge thanks to the amount of comments you put in it and additional ones today. Thank you so much, Martin.
no problem. I just quickly went through this morning as quickly as I could. So if there's anything that doesn't make sense, ignore it.
I think, we are genuinely done here. The final exam, integrate the last couple of comments, and LF might ask me to do a few more things. LF training might, but the whole course is looking complete. Now, you were saying,
Yeah.
When should the compliance review be complete? And perhaps it could be before, I don't know what's going on there, before the product ships. And then, the trick question could be along the lines of before the product support cycle ends.
Yeah, I was when is the compliance complete? So I was kind of alluding to, you may get requests for source code and stuff like that later or whatever. So the compliance is not necessarily stopped as soon as you ship a particular product.
Maybe this.
I'm just trying to, perhaps that's not a great example because it's almost an advanced topic, but to try and hit some of those kind of common myths,
Right.
Oh, we've done compliance, don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's right. Let me see if I can get rid of the weird colors on this thing. Okay. Maybe when is an open source compliance review complete? And I'm not sure what the correct answer would be there. What do you think would be the best answer for that? Hey, Jimmy.
Never.
That's a good answer. Yeah. So I guess a couple of licenses allow you to end of life products, right? After a certain point in distribution, but most don't. How should we phrase it?
I don't know.
I don't
I
remember
like the
seeing.
previous
Oh, sorry,
phrasing
Jimmy.
of. No, please go on, Jari. Sorry.
Yeah, because I'm just like Shane, what you say that some license may have this end of life, but I don't remember seeing that, and I have read quite a few licenses.
So maybe the answer would be
Isn't GPL something like 3 years after last shipment? But I can't remember if that's explicitly stated in the license.
I can't remember that it's in the license. It might be, let's say, that it's like the community norm or whatever, but
I
can't remember.
can't remember. Normally, anyway, guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to shoot off. So good luck, and I'll review it later. And if anyone needs me
Yeah.
to clarify anything or help with anything, then please drop us a mail.
Hey, Jimmy, you are a legal guy. You know all the licenses inside out.
Yeah, you could wake me up in the middle of the night and I can refer
Yeah.
GPL verbatim, word by word. No, but it's not a requirement in the license, right? It's not allowed for in the license, but it's the community norm, and I think it's on the FSF FAQ.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat canonical interpretation, but it's not in the license as such. But I like the previous phrasing of the question as well. Perhaps one could have both, but sort of when should the review sort of when should it be done? And there it's sort of simpler to quantify that it should be done prior to you ship your product, right?
Or offering the service, if it's SaaS
Yeah,
product.
exactly. Before it leaves the safe harbor of your company, at least, or before you expose it to anyone else.
Okay, prior to distributing. Great.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, actually. We're gradually getting in there. Key concepts for code building and distribution. I think maybe we should go back to that multiple choice that we had earlier and get the common scenarios. So have, what are common scenarios for code building and distribution? And we have incorporation, linking, and modification. And then we put in, one or two really stupid things that obviously aren't. You think that would be good?
Works for me.
All right,
Yep.
Let's see how I can put that in. My brain is broken. I've been at the computer for 11 hours, and
Whoa.
I'm getting too old for that. Okay. So this will just be multiple choice again. Okie dokie. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 2 more, I think. Yeah.
So is the 8 kind of lower or higher limit? Or is it
I think it's the minimum.
really the target? Minimum. Okay.
I'm thinking just enough to get LF training to say this is okay, so we can proceed.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking that if somebody comes up with some really good question, can we have a 9 or 10?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
we can do as many as people want. Maybe we should explicitly ask a question like, what is linking? Because this comes up so often and people have gone through a few different things.
And hold on, do we talk about static and dynamic linking as well?
Static and dynamic.
Because can't remember, is it really explained here? What does it mean?
Where is it?
That not much, no.
It's in chapter 4, linking.
Page,
chapter 4, linking. Just put it in the chat with the direct link.
Yeah.
We've got static and dynamic, and then it goes into pairing, combining, utilizing, packaging.
Yeah.
But I guess we should just ask, what is static linking? To make sure they were paying attention, or do you think that's too out of tone?
Too detailed, I don't know. Making one, binary out of, I don't know, like how to.
I was thinking it could be one of those good tricky questions that you're meant to fail. So you go back and you have another look, and it goes into your head. Just so that when people are dealing with that conversation, as inevitably they will, they'll definitely have been tripped up on it before, so they should remember it. Or is that too cruel?
I think it works. I don't think it's too detailed or too advanced. Perhaps it's more detailed compared to
The other ones, I guess.
Yeah.
some of the others, but it in and of itself, I don't think it's a bad question to ask here. I think it's highly relevant.
The next one, I guess, is towards the end of chapter 4. We have how is the open source component distributed? And maybe this could be the kind of multiple choice. What questions are important to ask around distribution? And there's 5 options here.
Good work, yeah.
No.
And then add another 3, 4.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm going to fix the formatting here. Perhaps we should add one more question related to chapter 5. Maybe we just ask, what are 3 challenges that an organization faces around compliance?
Key main challenges, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, I'll just put that down.
Work that out.
I think we're done. I think that's enough. What we then need to do is to put in the fake questions, and we are good to go. So my big ask for you is if you could have a look at the areas where we have multiple choice, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 areas which are multiple choice. And if you could help, add fake questions.
Sure, will do.
Cool. I'm just flagging these so they're super, 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 super obvious.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, should we put some, color coding there? Okay, these are the correct ones. So and then we add the false ones in I don't know, in red or whatever way. So
Sure, absolutely. Let me work on that formatting, and I should have the formatting ready in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I suggest we wrap up there and go virtual. I'll just get the coloring and formatting done. So it'll be ready for people to add the fake questions, and then we hand it over to LF training.
whoa, finally.
Finally. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful day.
And it's almost
Have a
weekend.
great weekend.
So close.